You might think that scrolling through endless feeds brings clarity, that the flood of news and notifications sharpens your edge in this chaotic world. But here's the Stoic truth. It chains you, whispering doubts into your quietest hours, turning peace into a distant echo. If this resonates, hit that like button, subscribe for more unfiltered wisdom from Marcus Aurelius, and drop a comment. What's one distraction pulling you under right now? Feel that initial frustration bubbling up, the knot in your chest as another alert pings, demanding your fractured attention. Picture yourself in the dim glow of your screen late at night, the city's hum fading as your mind races through headlines of crisis and comparison. You reach for your phone, convinced it's the key to staying ahead, to understanding the storm. Yet with each swipe, anxiety coils tighter, an unseen chain wrapping around your thoughts. Marcus Aurelius would pause here, his voice steady in the Meditations, reminding you that true wisdom isn't in chasing the deluge, it's in choosing what to let in. You question it now. Why does this barrage erode your calm? Because it scatters your focus, feeding illusions of control over what you can't grasp. In the Emperor's words, the mind is a citadel. Don't let invaders breach its walls unchecked. You resist the pull, breathing deep, selecting only what builds virtue, what hones your inner strength against the tide. This unseen chain? It's not the device, it's your unchecked hunger for more. Accept that boundary and watch anxiety loosen its grip. What small filter will you apply today, reclaiming the silence within? You stand at the edge of a crowded subway platform, the rush of strangers brushing past, their faces etched with the same unspoken strain you carry. That promotion you chased so hard slips through your fingers again, and resentment surges. Why them, not you? The unfairness stings, twisting your gut as the train doors hiss open. You bored, mind churning with blame, the world closing in like a vice. But pause. Breathe into that storm. Marcus Aurelius, in the quiet of his tent amid Roman legions, saw this clearly. Your mind is the citadel, not the chaos outside. What if the real battle isn't the event itself, but how you perceive it? You question the anger now, probing its roots. Is this loss truly a catastrophe, or just a shift in the river of fortune? You resist the easy habit of judgment, letting the thoughts settle, observing how your initial fury colors everything, turning allies into rivals, opportunities into threats. In the Meditations, he urges this discipline. See things as they are, stripped of your added venom. Not denial, but clarity. The demotion reveals your hidden strengths, urging growth where comfort once hid. Picture reclaiming that inner fortress later that evening. You sift through the day's debris, labeling only what serves virtue, effort over outcome, resilience over regret. Colleagues notice your steadied gaze, their confusion giving way to subtle respect as misunderstandings fade. This discipline of perception, it hands you the reins, transforming perceived defeats into deliberate steps. What one judgment will you reframe tonight, fortifying your citadel against the next wave? You wake to the soft chime of your alarm. Another day stretching out, blank and uncharted, like fog over the morning streets. That project on your desk mocks you from afar, its deadlines whispering regrets from yesterday's delays. You linger in bed, scrolling through distractions, promising yourself you'll start soon, after coffee, after checking emails. The hours slip, purpose dissolving into the haze of what-ifs and later whens, leaving a quiet ache of unfulfilled intent. Marcus Aurelius knew this drift well, emperor yet slave to time's unyielding march. In his Meditations, he steers you back. Life isn't a passive current. It's a vessel you command, or one that wrecks you on unseen shores. You question the pull now, that seductive inertia. Why surrender to procrastination when every breath demands direction? Your mind resists, clinging to the comfort of motion without meaning. But you discover the spark. Purpose isn't grand quests, it's deliberate choices in the mundane. Picture the shift at noon. You rise, face the task, breaking it into steady strokes, outlining first, then committing one page. A coworker passes your door, pausing with envy-tinged curiosity at your focused rhythm, their own day scattered in fragments. No more conflicts with your better self. Breakthroughs come in the quiet resolve, misunderstandings with time fading as you reclaim the helm. This struggle? It's yours to steer, forging virtue from voluntary action. What one small step will you take now, turning drift into deliberate course? You sit in the dimly lit conference room, the weight of the proposal heavy in your hands, its numbers promising a quick win for your team, but at the cost of cutting corners that could harm suppliers down the line. Your colleagues lean in, eyes expectant, the air thick with ambition's edge. Frustration simmers. Why risk the easy path when virtue calls you to something harder, something that serves more than just the moment? Marcus Aurelius, facing imperial decrees that tested his soul, etched this truth in his Meditations. Your inner compass isn't swayed by applause or profit. It's tuned to virtue, pointing always toward the common good. You question the temptation now, that voice urging self-preservation. Is success measured in ledgers or in deeds that uplift the whole? Resistance builds, the fear of standing alone clashing against the quiet certainty that true alignment brings. You discover the practice in the pause, weigh your action not by gain, but by its ripple. Does it foster justice, kindness, the shared human thread? Later, as you voice the adjustment, redirecting the plan toward fairness, a colleague shifts uncomfortably, their initial pushback softening into reluctant nods, misunderstandings dissolving into a shared, if uneasy, progress. No grand heroics, just the steady alignment that fortifies your resolve. This compass within, it guides you through moral fog, revealing resilience in choices that echo beyond yourself. What one deed today will you realign, letting virtue steer for the greater harmony? You receive the email just as the office lights flicker on, your position eliminated in a corporate shuffle, years of dedication unraveling in a single line of text. The screen blurs as disappointment crashes in, a sharp sting that hollows your chest, questions flooding. How could this happen now, after all the sacrifices? You pace the empty hallway, friends, sympathetic glances from afar only deepening the isolation, their unspoken pity a mirror to your unraveling composure. Marcus Aurelius, scarred by plagues and betrayals in his reign, confronted this derailment head-on in the Meditations. Setbacks aren't punishments from fate, they're the raw material of your unyielding spirit. You think it over in the quiet drive home, the rain streaking the window like unchecked tears. Why waste breath raging at the wind? Resistance flares at first, the urge to replay what-ifs, to assign blame to faceless executives or cruel chance. But you discover the pivot. Disappointment loses its bite when you meet it squarely, not as enemy, but as teacher. Practice it that evening. You list what remains in your grasp, your skills, your resolve, the next deliberate step forward. A family member approaches cautiously, their worry easing into quiet admiration at your measured calm, the conflict of shared grief transforming into a subtle bond of endurance. No denial, just the steady reclamation of the day. This sting of the unforeseen? It tests, but acceptance forges your resilience, turning derailment into a clearer track. What one unchangeable will you embrace today, stepping forward unbowed? You stare at the rain-lashed window of your apartment, the job loss still echoing like a distant thunder, now compounded by the doctor's call confirming the delay in your recovery, plans crumbling further into uncertainty. The frustration mounts, a heavy cloak. Why fight the inevitable when it drags you deeper? Your partner's hesitant touch on your shoulder conveys their worry, the air between you thick with unspoken fears, their eyes searching for the spark you once carried so effortlessly. Marcus Aurelius, amid the relentless turns of empire and illness, embraced this dance in his Meditations. Fate weaves its pattern, but freedom blooms in amor fati, loving what arrives, not resenting its form. You think it through in the gathering dusk, the city's lights blurring below, questioning the chains of resistance, that futile push against the unchangeable. Why hoard bitterness when surrender unlocks the rhythm? Resistance ebbs as you sit with it, the initial recoil giving way to a curious warmth, discovering that acceptance isn't defeat, but a willing step into the flow where disappointment transmutes into quiet power. You practice it gently that night, journaling not the losses, but the hidden gifts. Time to mend, space to redefine. Your partner lingers nearby, their tension easing into a shared stillness, the conflict of isolation yielding to a breakthrough in mutual surrender, understanding dawning without words. No more wrestling shadows, just the art of yielding with grace. This dance of fate, it liberates through love of what is, nurturing your deepest resilience. What moment of the unavoidable will you embrace today, finding freedom in its fold? You hold the faded photograph in your trembling hand, the edges worn from years of secret glances, capturing a time when everything felt solid, unbreakable. Now the person in the frame drifts further away, their life pulling in directions you can't follow, and the ache of loss grips you like a vice. Frustration boils. Why must it all slip through your fingers, this illusion of forever, that modern life sells so relentlessly? You sit alone in the quiet living room, the clocks tick, a mocking reminder of time's indifferent march. Marcus Aurelius, gazing at the eternal flux of Rome's rise and fall, pierced this veil in his Meditations. Nothing endures in this world of constant change. Clinging only sharpens the pain, while release brings the true measure of freedom. You ponder it deeply now, the weight of attachment pressing, questioning why you fight the fade, pouring energy into what nature dissolves. Resistance surges, that desperate grasp for control, the fear of emptiness without it. But in the stillness, you uncover the shift, seeing change not as thief, but as the very breath of existence, allowing space for what truly lasts, your inner equanimity. You practice it the next morning over coffee with a close friend, sharing the photo's story, your voice steadier than expected. They lean forward, their initial discomfort at your vulnerability melting into a nod of understanding. The old conflict of unspoken distances bridging in mutual acknowledgement of life's transience. No more futile holds, just the deliberate unclenching that lightens the soul. This illusion of forever? It dissolves under wisdom's gaze, revealing resilience in letting go. What one fading thing will you release today, embracing the change it invites? You glance at the calendar on your wall, weeks blurring into a monotonous grind, the days filled with half-hearted tasks and endless scrolling that numbs the edges of your ambition. That nagging frustration hits as evening falls, the room dimming with regrets over opportunities unspoken, connections untended, life slipping by in the comfort of tomorrow's vague promises. A colleague's hurried wave across the parking lot earlier stirs unease, their driven stride a quiet accusation against your stall. Marcus Aurelius, confronting the fragility of his own imperial days, wielded memento mori like a lantern in the Meditations. Remember death, not to despair, but to ignite the urgency of now, aligning every breath with purpose. You dwell on it in the fading light, the thought piercing the fog. Why squander this fleeting span on distractions when mortality sharpens the focus? Resistance creeps in, the allure of postponement comforting yet hollow, pulling you toward inertia's embrace. But curiosity stirs deeper. You discover the fire. Envisioning the end reframes the present, turning ordinary moments into deliberate acts of meaning, where hesitation yields to bold intention. You test it the next dawn, prioritizing a long-delayed call to a distant friend, your voice carrying newfound resolve. They respond with a pause, their surprise shifting to warmth, the old rift of neglected bonds mending in that simple outreach, misunderstandings cleared by presence over perfection. No frantic rush, just the steady pulse of living fully, one choice at a time. This memento mori? It awakens purpose, weaving resilience into the fabric of your irreplaceable days. What one present act will you honor today, fueled by the whisper of mortality's truth? You refresh the feed one more time, the glow of likes and comments washing over you like a fleeting high, each notification a crumb of validation in the vast digital sprawl. But as the screen dims, emptiness creeps in, that familiar frustration knotting your stomach. Why does your worth hinge on these echoes from strangers, your identity fracturing in the chase for approval? You slump back on the couch, the room silent except for the hum of your device, wondering if anyone truly sees you beyond the curated facade. Marcus Aurelius, emperor among flatterers and foes, warned in his Meditations against this trap. True identity isn't forged in external applause, it's rooted in self-mastery, unshaken by the world's fleeting judgments. You question it now, the pull of the echo chamber. Why hand your peace to algorithms and opinions when your soul knows its own measure? Resistance stirs, the habit of seeking reassurance addictive, clashing with the urge to stand firm. Yet curiosity leads you inward. You discover the liberation. Curate your inner narrative first, valuing actions over admirers, presence over posts. You apply it the next gathering, sharing a genuine thought amid friends. Polished updates, your voice unfiltered. One hesitates, their guarded smiles cracking into real engagement, the tension of superficial bonds easing into a breakthrough of authentic connection. Misunderstandings about your quiet depth fading away. No more orbiting others. Validation, just the steady build of self-trust. This echo chamber? It crumbles under inner wisdom, revealing resilience in self-defined worth. What one validation will you release today, claiming your identity anew? You awaken to the sting of yesterday's critique. A boss's offhand remark echoing in your mind, or a string of muted responses on your latest post, eroding the fragile scaffold of your confidence. The mirror reflects a face shadowed by doubt, frustration surging as you question why others' opinions hold such sway, dictating your stride through the day. You linger at the kitchen table, coffee cooling untouched, the weight of external judgment pressing like an uninvited guest. Marcus Aurelius, solitary in his reflections amid the clamor of court, built his inner sanctuary in the Meditations. Resilience and self-worth aren't borrowed from the world's verdict. They're crafted within, a fortress impervious to praise or scorn. You turn it over now, the tension building. Why tether your value to fleeting voices when your core remains untouched? Resistance rises, the ingrained need for affirmation pulling hard, whispering that solitude means weakness. But in probing deeper, you uncover the forge. Affirm your worth through daily virtues, honesty in small choices, kindness without expectation, shaping an unassailable self that opinions merely glance off. You embody it later at the team lunch, voicing an idea with quiet conviction, undeterred by skeptical glances. A peer shifts, their guarded posture softening into intrigued silence, the subtle conflict of doubt giving way to a breakthrough in mutual regard, as if your steadied presence invites their own. No seeking nods, just the quiet fortification that echoes louder than any applause. This inner sanctuary, it anchors your resilience, blooming wisdom in self-sustained light. What one inner affirmation will you nurture today, beyond the noise of opinion? You grip the steering wheel tighter. The car ahead cuts you off without signal, brakes screeching in the downpour, and a surge of raw anger floods your veins, hot and unbidden. Your heart races, words forming on your lips for the honk or worse, that impulsive storm threatening to eclipse reason. Frustration boils over. Why do these overwhelming feelings hijack the moment, turning a minor snag into a battle you never chose? You breathe shallowly at the red light, fists clenched, the driver's oblivious wave only fueling the inner turmoil. Marcus Aurelius, amid the tempests of war and personal trials, mapped this navigation in his Meditations. Emotions are visitors to the soul. Feel them fully, but never let them seize the reins. Guide them with deliberate will toward what endures. You reflect in the ensuing quiet, the rain pattering like unresolved thoughts, questioning the reflex, that knee-jerk fury born of unchecked impulse. Why yield to the wave when pausing reclaims the current? Resistance tugs, the allure of immediate release seductive, clashing with the call to observe without surrender. But in that suspended breath, you find the practice. Name the feeling, trace its fleeting route, then redirect, choosing calm over chaos, virtue over vent. You arrive home steadier, sharing the story with your roommate over dinner, your tone measured. They lean in, their furrowed brow smoothing as empathy replaces defensiveness, the familiar cycle of reactive misunderstandings breaking into a shared laugh, a subtle strengthening of trust. No suppression, just the art of steering through the swell. This emotional wheel? It yields to your steady hand, cultivating resilience in every navigated surge. What one rising feeling will you pause before today, reclaiming the path ahead? You lie awake in the shadowed bedroom, the diagnosis words from the doctor replaying like a relentless loop, fear coiling in your chest, visions of worst outcomes spiraling into sleepless dread. Your mind races ahead, catastrophe building on assumption, frustration mounting. Why does this terror grip so tightly, paralyzing choices you once navigated with ease? Beside you, your spouse stirs restlessly, their hand brushing yours in silent solidarity, the shared anxiety thickening the air between. Marcus Aurelius, staring down the uncertainties of plague and plots, honed the unblinking eye of reason in his Meditations. Fear thrives in the dark of unchecked imagination. Disarm it with logic's steady light, questioning each shadow until calm reclaims its throne. You engage it now, the tension humming. What evidence fuels this panic? Beyond the vague what-ifs, is the threat as vast as it feels, or merely a distortion of the known facts? Resistance pushes back, the emotional flood tempting surrender, urging you to wallow in the unknown. But curiosity draws you forward. You discover the tool, break it down methodically, list probabilities, weigh actions within reach, watching fear shrink under scrutiny's gaze, replaced by a growing clarity. You rise early, outlining a plan over breakfast, consulting resources with measured steps. Your spouse watches, their furrowed worry easing into focused resolve beside you, the initial standoff of unspoken fears resolving into collaborative steps. A breakthrough in unity born of your reasoned poise. No blind optimism, just the deliberate cultivation of inner calm. This eye of reason? It pierces fear's veil, fostering wisdom that steadies the soul through storms. What one fearful thought will you dissect today, unveiling the calm it conceals? You step into your sleek apartment after another late night at the office, promotions stacking like trophies on your shelf, yet the silence greets you heavier than before, a profound loneliness gnawing despite the climb. Frustration wells. Why does this solitary success feel like exile on an island of self, modern life glorifying independence while connections fray into notifications and nods? You sink into the chair, the city lights mocking your isolation, questioning if achievement alone can fill the human void. Marcus Aurelius, ruling an empire that thrived on unity, revealed in his Meditations the illusion's core. No soul succeeds in isolation. We're threads in the great weave of humanity, our strength drawn from shared burdens and joys. You ponder it deeply now, the isolation's grip tightening. Why resist the pull toward others, fearing vulnerability as weakness? The solitary path tempts with control, but curiosity uncovers the truth. Interdependence fuels virtue, turning personal wins into communal light. You discover the shift. Reach out not from need, but from the stoic recognition that isolation dims us all. You practice it the following week, inviting a coworker for coffee amid your packed schedule, your guarded walls cracking. They arrive hesitant, their own exhaustion mirroring yours. But as stories unfold, the air lightens, their subtle nod of relief bridging the gap, old misunderstandings of competitive distance yielding to a breakthrough in genuine alliance, enriching your path with unexpected depth. No grand gestures, just the deliberate weave that banishes the island's chill. This island of self? It dissolves in wisdom's embrace of others, forging resilience through shared humanity. What one connection will you nurture today, illuminating solitary shadows? You pause at the crosswalk amid the morning rush, a homeless figure huddled against the chill, their eyes meeting yours briefly before diverting, and a pang of discomfort stirs. Your packed schedule tugs you forward, dismissing the moment as someone else's burden. Frustration simmers later at your desk, the isolation of self-focus leaving a hollow echo. Why chase personal peaks while the greater whole frays around you, modern individualism masking our intertwined fates? Marcus Aurelius, envisioning humanity as one rational city, inscribed this duty in his Meditations. We're not isolated sparks, but parts of a shared soul. Our virtue lies in service to the collective, rediscovering connection through deliberate acts of care. You mull it over in the lunch break quiet, the idea challenging, questioning the resistance to involvement, that fear of overreach or depletion pulling you back into solitary orbits. Why hoard your light when extending it multiplies for all? Curiosity builds as you resist the default drift. You discover the anchor. Duty isn't sacrifice, it's the thread binding us, transforming fleeting encounters into enduring harmony. You act on it that afternoon, stopping to offer a warm drink and a listening ear to the same figure, your presence steady. They accept with a hesitant nod, the guarded wariness softening into quiet gratitude, while passers-by glance with initial surprise, their hurried paces slowing in subtle reflection, the tension of overlooked humanity yielding to a breakthrough in communal awareness, strengthening the invisible bonds. No heroic fanfare, just the practice of reaching beyond the self. This shared humanity, it rekindles wisdom and duty, weaving resilience from our collective weave. What one act of connection will you extend today, honoring the greater whole? You face the glowing spreadsheet in the late office hours. The figures tempt a subtle tweak, just enough to seal the client deal and secure your team's bonus, but the gnawing doubt twists. Will this compromise erode something deeper, inviting unseen consequences in a world where ethics blur like fog? Frustration builds as you hover over the keys, the pressure from deadlines and expectations closing in, leaving you adrift in moral ambiguity, wondering if bending once paves a slippery path. Marcus Aurelius, navigating the gray zones of imperial rule, affirmed in his Meditations the unyielding compass. Compromise may promise short gains, but true consequence lies in the soul's fracture. Uphold integrity as your north, for virtue alone withstands the tide of ambiguity. You weigh it now, the tension coiling. Why rationalize the shortcuts when reason demands clarity? Resistance flares, the allure of easy wins clashing with the quiet voice of justice, that fear of falling behind urging surrender. But in the probing silence you uncover the anchor, align decisions with enduring principles, tracing each choice to its ripple on self and others, where ambiguity yields to deliberate honor. You revise the report instead, presenting the honest data the next morning. Your manager pauses, initial surprise etching their face before nodding with measured respect. The undercurrent of potential conflict diffusing into a shared commitment to transparency, a breakthrough that fortifies the team's trust. Misunderstandings about cutthroat ambition fading into collaborative strength. No evasion, just the practice of ethical resolve. This dance of compromise, it bows to wisdom's clarity, nurturing resilience in choices that echo virtue's quiet power. What one ambiguous path will you illuminate today with integrity's steady light? You rush through the crowded market on a harried Saturday, juggling bags heavy with errands, when a vendor shortchanges you by accident, and the urge to snap rises sharp, tangled with the exhaustion of the week. Frustration flares. Why navigate these daily skirmishes without a steady guide, letting impulses erode your calm in a barrage of minor battles? You step aside, pulse quickening, the vendor's apologetic glance unmet as irritation simmers, questioning if scattered reactions define your character or if something firmer anchors you. Marcus Aurelius, architect of his emperor's duties, leaned on the 4 pillars in his Meditations: wisdom to discern truth from illusion, justice to act fairly toward all, courage to face discomfort unflinching, and temperance to moderate desires. Practiced daily, they build the unshakable frame of virtue. You consider them now, the inner churn intensifying. Why resist their call, preferring the chaos of unchecked moods over disciplined harmony? The pull of convenience tugs, but curiosity ignites. You discover the weave. In this moment, wisdom sifts the error from malice. Justice prompts a gentle correction without venom. Courage holds your tongue firm. Temperance tempers the rush to outrage, revealing a path of quiet command. You return to the vendor with composed words, clarifying the miscount. They nod, relief washing their features as they adjust without defensiveness, a nearby shopper pausing to observe, their hurried scowl softening in the exchange's ripple. The subtle conflict of rushed lives easing into a shared respect. Breakthroughs in patience born from your poised example. No lofty ideals, just the daily forging that elevates the ordinary. These 4 pillars? They sculpt resilience through habit, illuminating virtue in life's unyielding flow. What one pillar will you invoke today? Steadying your steps amid the fray, you jolt awake to the blaring siren. An accident on the highway has upended your morning commute, your car totaled in a tangle of metal and glass, the unexpected shock rippling through your body like ice water. Adrenaline surges, frustration exploding. Why now, when everything was aligned? This blindside derailing plans without mercy. You stand on the roadside, phone in hand, calling for help, the chaos of horns and flashing lights amplifying the inner whirl, as a fellow driver nods sympathetically but hurries past, their own delay etched in tense shoulders. Marcus Aurelius, battered by unforeseen wars and losses in his command, confronted this shock in his Meditations. Adversity strikes unannounced to test your mettle. Meet it not with despair, but with the stoic readiness that transforms crisis into forge for inner strength. You process it amid the wait for the tow, the turmoil churning. Why let panic's flood drown your reason, when preparation lies in viewing the blow as indifferent to your essence? Resistance battles the rising dread, the instinct to curse fate clashing with a deeper pull toward composure. But in the haze, you glimpse the practice. Assess what's lost against what's intact, your health, your will. Then pivot, channeling energy into next steps, discovering equanimity as the true shield against life's ambushes. Later, at home with your family gathered around, you recount the ordeal calmly, outlining insurance calls ahead. Their wide-eyed concern softens into supportive resolve, the initial wave of collective fear giving way to a breakthrough in unity. Misunderstandings about your rattled state fading as your steadied presence grounds them all. No illusion of control, just the deliberate response that honors resilience. This shock of the unexpected? It reveals wisdom in unwavering poise, accepting adversity as the teacher of fortitude. What one sudden twist will you face today with ready calm, turning strike into strength? You sit in the quiet of your study after the day's close. The accident's shadow still lingers, but now it stirs a deeper unease as you prepare for the upcoming presentation. Visions of stumbling words and skeptical faces crowding your thoughts. Frustration edges in. Why let imagined failures rob your present peace? This dread of evils yet to come, chaining you before they even unfold. You flip through notes, hand pausing mid-page. The room's hush, amplifying the mental storm, as memories of past slips flash unbidden. Marcus Aurelius, anticipating betrayals and battles in his nocturnal writings, forged the shield of foresight in his Meditations. Premeditate evils, not to dwell in gloom, but to steel your fortitude, rehearsing responses so adversity arrives as familiar guest, not shattering intruder. You engage it now, the tension knotting. Why evade the shadows when facing them head-on builds the unbreakable core? Resistance whispers of needless worry, the comfort of avoidance tempting retreat, but curiosity propels you. You discover the fortification, envision the critique's sting, the tech glitches chaos, then map calm countermeasures, deep breaths for clarity, facts as armor, transforming fear into deliberate readiness, where potential harms lose their paralyzing grip. You share the outline with a trusted colleague the next day, walking through worst-case pivots. Their initial skepticism, brows furrowed in doubt, eases into thoughtful alignment, the friction of untested plans smoothing into collaborative assurance, a breakthrough that cements mutual confidence, misunderstandings about over-preparation fading into shared preparation. No paranoia, just the proactive weave that guards the mind. This shield of foresight? It tempers resilience, turning anticipated trials into wisdom's quiet arsenal. What one looming evil will you premeditate today, forging strength in its shadow? You stand on the podium, applause thundering as the award gleams in your hand. Months of relentless hours culminating in this pinnacle moment, yet beneath the smile, a hollow ache stirs, the triumph tasting like ash rather than gold. Frustration creeps in later, alone in the hotel room. Why chase these external highs, pouring life into accolades that evaporate by morning, leaving you emptier than before? The city's neon buzz outside mocks the quiet void within as you scroll through congratulatory messages, each one amplifying the unease. Marcus Aurelius, crowned emperor yet unmoved by palaces and praises, dissected this game in his Meditations. External achievements are shadows on the wall, fleeting illusions that tease fulfillment but deliver dust. True quietude blooms from inner cultivation, where virtue's steady flame outshines worldly chases. You wrestle with it now, the tension rising. Why cling to the pursuit, resisting the shift to self-mastery when it alone sustains? The siren call of more, bigger titles, louder cheers, pulls hard, but curiosity unravels it. You discover the pivot, redirecting energy inward, valuing deliberate character over disposable crowns, where emptiness yields to enduring poise. You join family for dinner the next evening, their proud toasts clinking glasses, but your presence feels different, grounded, sharing insights from the road rather than the trophy's shine. A sibling's envious glance softens into curious reflection, the undercurrent of competitive strains easing into a breakthrough of real appreciation, misunderstandings about success's shallows bridging in your quiet authenticity. No more hollow hunts, just the practice of inner alignment. This chasing game? It fades before wisdom's inner light, revealing resilience in pursuits that nourish the soul. What one external lure will you question today? Turning gaze inward, for lasting fullness, you watch the stock ticker plummet on your screen. Your portfolio, built from years of shrewd investments and late nights, evaporates in hours. The fortune that once defined your stride now a ghost in the machine. Frustration surges in the dim home office, hands clenching the desk. Why does this loss hollow you out? Fame's fleeting glow from boardroom whispers turning to dust, leaving you adrift in what truly anchors your days. The phone buzzes with a colleague's concerned check-in, but you silence it, the isolation sharpening the inner void. Marcus Aurelius, emperor of vast riches yet chained by none, illuminated the indifference in his Meditations. Fortune and fame are neutral winds, neither good nor ill. The true wealth resides in virtue's unyielding core, what you cultivate beyond the rise and fall of externals. You sift through it now, the ache persisting. Why elevate the ephemeral, resisting the pivot to what endures when indifference merely pass? The habit of tying self to status resists fiercely, promising security in the chase, but curiosity peels it back. You discover the clarity, discern the preferred from the essential, health in moderation, relationships in kindness. Practicing gratitude for virtue's quiet bounty over fleeting gains, where emptiness transforms into liberated focus. You meet friends for coffee the next week, sharing the setback without the old bravado. Their sympathetic tilts soften from pity to admiration for your unflappable core, the undercurrent of envy in past gatherings giving way to a breakthrough in deeper bonds, misunderstandings about material success dissolving into mutual support rooted in character. No clinging to losses, just the deliberate valuation that enriches. This wealth of indifference? It unveils wisdom in selective care, fostering resilience where fortune falters. What one indifferent will you release today, embracing virtue's enduring treasure? You fumble the coffee lid in the rush hour kitchen, spilling dark liquid across the counter, staining your fresh shirt, just as emails ping with minor crises from work. Delays, corrections, the endless drip of daily grievances swallowing your morning whole. Frustration mounts in the car, stuck behind a slow driver, each petty snag piling like weights on your chest, leaving you drained before noon. Why do these microcosmic worries overwhelm, turning life's vast canvas into a battlefield of insignificant storms? You grip the wheel tighter, the radio's chatter fading under your inner rant, the world narrowing to this suffocating loop. Marcus Aurelius, gazing at the stars from his tent, lifted his gaze in the Meditations to the cosmic view. Petty worries are but specks in the universe's grand design. Zoom out, and they dissolve, freeing you to focus on what merits your finite span. You consider it amid the traffic's crawl, the burden lifting slightly. Why trap yourself in the trivial, resisting the expansive breath that reveals their tininess? The habit of magnification pulls back, comforting in its familiarity, but curiosity expands your sight. You discover the release. Pause, envision the earth from afar, your spill and snags mere blips against eternity's flow, practicing detachment to reclaim vast serenity from the petty's grip. You arrive at the office composed, addressing a colleague's oversight with patient guidance. Their defensive posture eases into grateful focus, the typical clash of irritated exchanges turning to a breakthrough in smooth collaboration, misunderstandings about rushed tensions fading as your broader calm influences the air. No ignoring woes, just the elevated perch that lightens them. This lost microcosm, it yields to wisdom's wide lens, building resilience in the perspective that dwarfs daily dust. What one petty worry will you cosmic frame today, stepping into expansive peace? You lean against the window of your high-rise office, the argument with your partner still echoing from the morning's call. Harsh words over forgotten plans, the sting of misunderstanding fueling a day of restless distraction. Frustration coils tight, every passing hour amplifying the petty rift, as if this single discord eclipses the broader rhythm of existence, leaving you mired in emotional quicksand. Below, the city pulses indifferently, crowds weaving like threads in an unseen tapestry, yet your world contracts to this one wound. Marcus Aurelius, emperor who beheld the cosmos from his earthly throne, ascended to the view from above in his Meditations. Rise in mind to the universal vantage, where personal tempests shrink to specks in infinity's vast serenity, granting clarity to navigate with detached wisdom. You invoke it now, standing there, the inner storm brewing. Why remain ensnared in the narrow frame, resisting the lift that reveals conflicts as transient ripples on the human sea? The pull of immediacy resists, anchoring you in Hertz's immediacy, but curiosity elevates. You discover the ascent, visualize the globe turning, your quarrel a fleeting note in nature's eternal score, practicing this detachment to infuse responses with serene proportion, where overwhelm yields to tranquil insight. You call back that evening, approaching the conversation from this height, softening old edges with understanding. Your partner's guarded tension eases into open relief, the cycle of blame dissolving in mutual perspective, a breakthrough that mends the divide, as their weary sighs turn to shared laughter, misunderstandings clarified by your composed elevation. No erasing pains, just the soaring gaze that harmonizes them. This view from above? It bestows wisdom's serenity, strengthening resilience in life's boundless expanse. What one turmoil will you lift today, finding peace in the universal flow? You sit at the dinner table, fork midway to your mouth, the savory aroma rising untouched, as yesterday's regrettable outburst at work replays in loops, sharp words you wish undone, while tomorrow's uncertain meeting looms like a gathering storm, stealing the simple joy of this shared meal. Frustration knots your brow, the present evaporating under the dual tug, past chains and future phantoms pulling you from the now, leaving life half-lived in shadows of what was and might be. Your child's laughter cuts through, but you miss the spark in their eyes, the moment slipping as your mind wanders elsewhere. Marcus Aurelius, philosopher king amid endless duties, anchored himself in the Meditations to the eternal present. Regrets fixate on irretrievable yesterdays, Anxieties inflate unborn tomorrows. The only realm of true action is this instant, where virtue unfolds in full awareness. You sense it stirring now, the pull intensifying. Why surrender your power to echoes and illusions, resisting the discipline that roots you here? The comfort of rumination resists, a familiar fog veiling the clarity of presence, but curiosity clears the way. You discover the return, gently note the mind's drift, then redirect to the breath, the texture of food, the warmth across the table, practicing full immersion to reclaim the now from time's thieves. You engage then, asking about your child's day with genuine focus. Their animated gestures draw you in, the earlier disconnection easing as your attentiveness meets theirs, a subtle breakthrough in presence that mends the quiet rift. Misunderstandings of your distraction fading into connected ease. No erasing time, just the deliberate anchor in the unfolding moment. This tug of elsewhere? It loosens under wisdom's gaze, cultivating resilience in the vibrant now. What one absent thought will you release today, fully inhabiting the present's gift? You wander through the park path at dusk, the leaves crunching underfoot, a friend's story unfolding beside you about their recent breakthrough. Yet your thoughts drift to the unfinished report waiting at home, the words washing over like distant waves, unabsorbed. Frustration simmers quietly. Why engage so shallowly, half present in conversations that could deepen bonds? This modern haze of divided attention, robbing the richness of simple exchanges. You nod absently, their enthusiasm dimming in the fading light, the gap between you widening unseen. Marcus Aurelius, ever attuned to duty's call in fleeting instants, cultivated this in his Meditations. The only moment we possess is now. Deepen it with full engagement, pouring attention into actions and souls as if each were irreplaceable, for scattered presence scatters life itself. You feel the pull now, the distraction's current strong. Why resist the immersion, clinging to mental multitasking, when undivided focus unlocks true connection? The inertia of fragmentation tugs, a habitual shield against overwhelm, but curiosity invites you in. You discover the cultivation, set aside the mental clutter, attune fully to the voice, the gesture, the shared breath, practicing this wholeness to transform routine interactions into profound presences, where superficiality gives way to authentic vitality. You turn back then, locking eyes with your friend, absorbing their tale with intent presence. Their reserved flow opens wider, the earlier disconnect melting into animated reciprocity, a breakthrough in mutual depth that bridges the subtle isolation. As their smiles reflect your engaged warmth, conflicts of inattention resolved in the moment's embrace. No forcing depth, just the deliberate dive that enriches. This only moment? It flourishes under presence's care, weaving resilience through deeply lived instants. What one engagement will you fully inhabit today, savoring the now's unyielding gift? You stride into the boardroom, presentation polished to perfection. The team's eyes on you, accolades from last quarter still ringing in your ears. But as a colleague challenges your idea with quiet insight, irritation flares. How dare they undermine your vision, this essential force in the company's orbit? Frustration simmers through the meeting, your responses sharpening with defensiveness, the room's energy shifting as others exchange uneasy glances. Your self-importance casting a shadow that blinds you to the collaborative flow. Marcus Aurelius, supreme ruler who knelt before the cosmos, exposed this trap in his Meditations. Pride inflates the ego to godlike size, blinding us to our true place as fleeting threads in the universal web. Embrace humility to see clearly, for self-importance isolates while modest awareness unites. You reflect later in the empty conference space, the weight pressing. Why armor yourself in arrogance, resisting the vulnerability that reveals shared humanity? The thrill of superiority resists, a protective veil against doubt, but curiosity pierces it. You discover the liberation. Step back, acknowledge others, worth as equals in the grand design, practicing gratitude for collective contributions over solitary glory, where pride's distortion clears to harmonious sight. You reconvene with the team the next day, inviting their input with open acknowledgement. Their initial hesitance gives way to eager ideas, the earlier tension dissolving into fluid synergy, a breakthrough that elevates the project. As guarded postures relax into trusting collaboration, misunderstandings of your aloofness fading into mutual respect. No diminishing self, just the humble stance that expands influence. This trap of self-importance, it shatters under wisdom's humble lens, nurturing resilience in our interconnected place. What one proud assumption will you humble today, unveiling clearer connections? You gaze at the night sky from your balcony, stars scattered like distant fires, the weight of a recent setback. A project faltered through no fault singularly yours, presses heavy, stirring a quiet resentment toward the world's indifference, your role in it feeling both pivotal and pointless. Frustration whispers of isolation, the ego's insistent claim to centrality blurring the edges of shared fragility, as if your trials eclipse the cosmic dance, leaving you adrift in self-centered drift. The cool air carries a neighbor's faint laughter from below, a reminder of lives weaving unseen. Marcus Aurelius, beholding the heavens as fellow travelers, embraced cosmic humility in his Meditations. We are fleeting sparks in the vast, interconnected cosmos. Strength emerges not from dominating our place, but from yielding to it with reverence, our brevity bonding us in mutual ephemerality. You contemplate it under the infinite vault, the isolation cracking. Why inflate your narrative, resisting the awe that diminishes ego while enlarging connection? The comfort of self-focus clings, a shield against vulnerability, but curiosity unfolds the cosmos. You discover the power. Affirm your transience. Honor the links to all beings and forces, practicing this surrender to draw fortitude from the whole, where individual burdens lighten in universal kinship. You descend to greet the neighbor the next evening, sharing the setback with unguarded candor. Their empathetic lean-in mirrors your own, the initial reserve of separate spheres dissolving into affirming exchange, a breakthrough that binds solitude into community as their subtle nod echoes your newfound ease. Conflicts of hidden struggles yielding to resilient interdependence. No grasping at permanence, just the humble bow to existence's flow. This humility in the cosmos, it ignites wisdom's quiet strength, accepting our fleeting weave with resilient grace. What one self-centered veil will you pierce today, finding power in the interconnected vast? You stare at the blank canvas of your laptop screen, the looming deadline for the crucial report taunting you, details swirling but paralysis gripping your fingers, each potential step forward laced with fear of error or failure. Frustration builds like a storm cloud, the challenge not the work itself, but this inner roadblock. Why does anticipation of hurdles defeat you before the race begins, turning ambition into stagnation? You pace the quiet room, coffee growing cold, the weight of inaction heavier than any task, as if the obstacle magnifies into an insurmountable wall. Marcus Aurelius, facing sieges and setbacks without flinching, revealed this self-sabotage in his Meditations. Challenges paralyze when we amplify their terror in our minds. We defeat ourselves by inventing defeats, but true power lies in dissecting the barrier, acting despite the doubt to reclaim momentum. You probe it now, the freeze deepening. Why let imagined pitfalls halt you, resisting the simple motion that dissolves them? The comfort of delay resists, a deceptive refuge from risk, but curiosity cracks it open. You discover the breakthrough. Break the block into tiny advances, question the worst's likelihood, then commit one keystroke at a time, practicing this persistence to transform paralysis into purposeful stride, where defeat's illusion shatters under deliberate effort. You push through later, outlining the first section amid the hum of home. Your spouse glances over, their initial concern for your tension easing into encouraging proximity, the subtle rift of shared worry bridging as your steady progress invites their quiet support, a breakthrough that lightens the load, misunderstandings of your withdrawal fading into unified resolve. No bypassing trials, just the forward lean that conquers. This roadblock ahead, it crumbles before wisdom's advance, forging resilience in the act of overcoming. What one halting fear will you step past today, claiming victory in motion? You sift through the rejection email for the third time, The report's painstaking hours dismissed with vague feedback, a promotion now dangling out of reach, the setback hitting like a gut punch. Frustration surges as you slam the laptop shut, wondering why these roadblocks define your path, turning effort into echo rather than echo forward. The office empties around you, colleagues, hurried goodbyes underscoring your stalled solitude, the weight of defeat thickening the air. Marcus Aurelius, turning Roman defeats into doctrines of endurance, proclaimed the obstacle as the way in his Meditations. Setbacks aren't detours, but the very forge for growth. Mind them for lessons, redirecting their force to propel you stronger, where paralysis becomes pivot. You dwell on it, in the dimming light, the sting persisting. Why view the barrier as enemy, resisting its hidden gifts when embracing it builds unyielding progress? The urge to lament resists, a reflex to wallow in loss, but curiosity reframes it. You discover the alchemy, dissect the critique for overlooked angles, refine your approach from failure's clarity, practicing this inversion to convert rejection into refined skill, where the block reveals the breakthrough waiting beneath. You pitch the revised outline to your team the following week, weaving in the hard-won insights. Their skeptical furrows smooth into intrigued nods, the former standoff of doubt evolving into collective refinement. A breakthrough that sharpens the vision as initial dismissals yield to empowered input, misunderstandings of your setback as weakness fading into admired tenacity. No wishing away trials, just the transformative use that advances. This obstacle is way, it unlocks wisdom's forge, tempering resilience in every turned hurdle. What one setback will you reframe today? Harvesting growth from its core. You haul the shopping bags up the stairs, the latest tech gadget unboxed on your nightstand, its sleek promise of streamlined life gleaming under the lamp. Yet as you scroll reviews for the next must-have, an empty pull settles in your chest. The purchase's thrill fading faster than the credit card charge. Frustration bubbles over dinner, pushing food around your plate while ads flicker on your phone, whispering of upgrades and escapes. Why does this modern pursuit of more trap you in cycles of want, each acquisition deepening the void rather than filling it? Marcus Aurelius, surrounded by imperial excess he shunned, confronted this craving in his Meditations. External goods are indifference at best, their endless chase a delusion of fulfillment. True ease blooms from mastering desires, finding abundance in what's already yours, for the soul thrives on moderation, not accumulation. You turn it inward now, the habit's grip tightening. Why feed the machine of consumerism, resisting its siren call that equates worth with possessions? The allure of novelty resists, a conditioned rush against simplicity, but curiosity probes deeper. You discover the sufficiency, audit your true needs, question each urge's root, then practice restraint, decline the impulse buy, savor the present tools, transforming craving into grateful use, where excess's weight lifts to liberated lightness. You mention the unopened bag to your sibling over coffee the next morning, opting for a walk instead of another outing. Their surprised pause shifts to shared reflection, the usual pattern of enabling purchases giving way to affirming nods. A breakthrough that eases relational strains, as their habitual encouragement turns to mutual appreciation of simplicity, misunderstandings of your thrift as stinginess, fading into inspired balance. No ascetic denial, just the deliberate curbing that enriches. This endless craving? It quiets under wisdom's measure, revealing resilience in chosen few. What one want will you interrogate today? Embracing the enough that's already here. You clear the cluttered shelf in your living room, dusty gadgets and forgotten purchases tumbling into a donation box. The space breathing easier, yet a nagging itch persists. Ads on your feed promising the next upgrade that would complete you, turning simplicity into a sterile void rather than a sanctuary. Frustration simmers as you sit amid the pared-down calm, the modern drumbeat of acquisition echoing louder than the quiet. Why chase endless more when paring back reveals the richness already woven into your days? Marcus Aurelius, content in his modest tent amid luxury's temptations, nurtured contentment in his Meditations. Simplicity strips away the excess that burdens, while gratitude illuminates the inherent wealth of what suffices. Practice them to dwell in unforced abundance, for the soul finds true richness in mindful appreciation, not material hoards. You lean into it now, the clutter's echo fading. Why resist the austerity that frees, clinging to the illusion of lack when gratitude unlocks hidden bounties? The pull of consumption resists, a habitual armor against boredom, but curiosity simplifies. You discover the practice. Survey your surroundings with thankful eyes. List 3 unearned graces each evening. Embrace the unadorned meal or walk, transforming scarcity's shadow into grateful fullness, where craving yields to serene plenty. You host a small gathering the next weekend, serving simple fare on cleared surfaces. Your guests arrive expectant, but their hurried energy slows in the unpretentious warmth, initial surprise at the lack of extravagance shifting to relaxed contentment. A breakthrough that deepens conversations, as guarded comparisons fade into shared appreciation, relational frictions of one-upmanship dissolving into harmonious ease. No lavish shows, just the quiet wealth that binds. This practice of contentment, it cultivates wisdom's gentle abundance, rooting resilience in grateful simplicity. What one excess will you release today, savoring the richness within? You scroll through the comments on your latest post, a mix of thumbs-up icons and one cutting critique that lingers, its words slicing deeper than intended. Your mood plummeting as validation's tide recedes, self-worth teetering on strangers, fleeting judgments. Frustration grips you in the quiet evening, phone abandoned on the table. Why let external opinions dictate your value, these shifting sands eroding your foundation in a world wired for likes and nods, turning inner peace into a popularity contest? Marcus Aurelius, unmoved by the court's whispers despite his crown, discerned this trap in his Meditations. Others, opinions are vapors on the wind, unreliable, ever-changing. Anchor self-worth in personal virtue and reason, independent of praise or scorn, for true esteem flows from within, steady and self-sourced. You sit with it now, the sting echoing. Why outsource your soul's measure, resisting the pull of external tides when sovereignty lies in self-approval? The habit of seeking nods resists, a deep-rooted crave for belonging, but curiosity steadies you. You discover the refuge, evaluate your actions against quiet integrity, affirm daily merits without audience. Practice this detachment to weather opinions, gales, where worth solidifies beyond applause. You meet a friend for lunch the next day, sharing the post's fallout with even tone, owning your effort over outcomes. Their sympathetic concern eases without pity, the usual echo of communal commiseration shifting to respectful space, a breakthrough that fortifies both as their mirroring doubt fades into your modeled poise. Relational imbalances of validation seeking dissolving into balanced exchange. No chasing echoes, just the inner compass that endures. This shifting sands of opinion, it stills under wisdom's anchor, building resilience and self-forged esteem. What one judgment will you release today, claiming worth from within? You receive the overlooked message from your supervisor, praising a junior colleague's contribution while glossing over yours. The slight stinging like salt in a fresh cut, reputation's fragile veil tearing to expose the raw underbelly of self-doubt. Frustration courses through you in the empty elevator descent, the building's hum mocking your rising sense of diminishment. Why tether your esteem to these external tallies, letting others' perceptions eclipse the quiet integrity you've built in unseen hours? Marcus Aurelius, enduring calumnies fit for an emperor, championed the internal scorecard in his Meditations. Reputation is a shadow cast by others, unreliable and passing. Anchor esteem in character alone, judging yourself by virtues pursued and duties met, for this unerring measure yields unshakable poise amid the world's whims. You unpack it during the evening commute, the city's blur outside mirroring your inner whirl. Why surrender sovereignty to fickle renown, resisting the self-audit that honors honest endeavor over acclaim? The lure of public nod resists, a seductive crutch against solitude's truth, but curiosity fortifies. You discover the anchor, nightly review, not applause, but alignment with courage in choices, kindness in actions, practicing this inward reckoning to elevate character above crowd's verdict, where reputation's erosion reveals enduring core. You lead the weekly huddle the next morning, crediting the team's unsung efforts with genuine resolve. Your subordinates' tentative expressions brighten into confident input, the habitual dynamic of competitive silos cracking open, a breakthrough that unifies momentum, as their lingering suspicions of favoritism yield to collective trust, relational friction smoothed by your character-driven lead. No courting favor, just the steadfast scorecard that empowers. This internal scorecard? It grounds wisdom's unyielding esteem, weaving resilience from virtuous threads. What one external slight will you counter with self-affirmation today, strengthening character's quiet throne? You flip through channels on a lazy Sunday afternoon, hours dissolving into blurred episodes and endless scrolls, the sun dipping low without a single meaningful mark on your day, leaving a vague dissatisfaction like sand slipping through fingers. Frustration rises as evening shadows lengthen. Why drift through this illusion of endless time, modern distractions lulling you into purposeless haze, as if days stretch infinitely yet vanish unclaimed, your potential idling in neutral? Marcus Aurelius, ever mindful of mortality's edge, urged purposeful vigilance in his Meditations. Time is no boundless river, but a finite thread. Don't squander it in aimless flow. Infuse each segment with intention aligned to virtue, for drifting scatters life while direction forges fulfillment. You confront it now, the inertia's weight pressing. Why indulge the ease of meandering, resisting the spark of deliberate aim when purpose sharpens existence? The comfort of unfocused comfort resists, a gentle current against effort's bank, but curiosity ignites. You discover the rudder, set small true goals for the hour, read a page that enlightens, connect with intent, practicing this focus to weave days into a tapestry of growth, where illusion cracks to reveal time's precious scarcity. You rise then, calling a neglected relative with focused warmth. Their voice, initially tentative, warms in response, the habitual distance narrowing, a breakthrough that mends quiet estrangement, as their subdued tone lifts to engaged reciprocity. Misunderstandings of your busyness yielding to renewed closeness. No grand quests, just the steady course that counts. This illusion of endless time, it yields to wisdom's purposeful hand, cultivating resilience in every intentional breath. What one drifting hour will you claim today, steering toward meaningful ends? You juggle the overflowing inbox on your commute, notifications piling like unanswered summons, each ping fragmenting your focus further. The day ahead, a blur of obligations that swallow hours without trace. Frustration tightens your grip on the phone. Why let time slip through reactive motions? This modern frenzy of busyness masking an artless drift, intentional living lost to the tyranny of the urgent over the vital. You exhale sharply as the train jolts, the crowds murmur, underscoring your private chaos. The present priced, priceless, yet squandered. Marcus Aurelius, allotting his waking hours with philosophical precision, mastered this in his Meditations. The present is time's sole treasure. Claim it with wise management, prioritizing essence over excess. For intentional choices carve legacy from fleeting now. You sift through the mental clutter now, the scatter persisting. Why yield to endless demands, resisting the discipline that discerns wheat from chaff? The seduction of scattered urgency resists, a chaotic veil shielding from hard calls on what matters, but curiosity clarifies. You discover the art. Audit your calendar ruthlessly. Block sacred slots for deep work or reflection. Practice saying no to the trivial, transforming overwhelm into orchestrated flow where time bends to purposeful will. You arrive home and carve an evening block for family reading, undistracted. Your partner's initial hesitation at the shift melts into immersed sharing, the habitual rush of divided evenings yielding to a breakthrough in unhurried bond, a subtle harmony that deepens presence as their fleeting glances of surprise turn to contented immersion, relational haste softened into lasting connection. No reclaiming past, just the wise stewardship that honors this priceless present. It rewards intention's hand, instilling resilience through time's deliberate weave. What 1 hour will you wisely claim today, living its worth fully? You replay the argument from last week's team meeting, the colleague's sharp comments still burning, a grudge festering like an untreated wound, poisoning casual encounters and sleep alike. your inner calm eroded by this self-inflicted storm. Frustration mounts as you avoid the water cooler, the office humming around you. Why carry resentment's heavy load, letting one slight diminish your peace when the world moves on, turning harmony into a hostage of yesterday's barbs? Marcus Aurelius, bearing betrayals that could sour empires, released this burden in his Meditations. Grudges are chains we forge ourselves, sapping vitality from the present. Forgive not for others' sake, but to reclaim your soul's serenity, for peace demands we drop the weight that no longer serves. You examine it now in the quiet break room, the echo lingering. Why nurture the poison, resisting the freedom of release when it honors your own equanimity? The comfort of righteous anger resists, a familiar fire against vulnerability's chill, but curiosity dissolves it. You discover the unburdening. Trace the grudge's root without judgment. Wish the offender well in silence, then pivot to present duties, practicing this mercy to lighten the load where resentment's grip loosens to restored clarity. You approach the colleague later that afternoon, offering neutral collaboration on a task. Their surprised posture softens into cooperative ease, the lingering tension of past friction yielding to a breakthrough in workflow harmony, a subtle shift that eases the team's undercurrent of wariness, as guarded glances turn to focused teamwork, relational scars fading under your unresentful lead. No confrontation, just the quiet shedding that heals. This burden of resentment, it lifts with wisdom's forgiveness, restoring resilience and unclouded peace. What one grudge will you release today, stepping light into the now? You clench your jaw during the family dinner, your sibling's offhand remark about your career choice igniting a flash of anger, old wounds reopening, the heat rising to color your face as plates clatter softly around the table. Frustration boils within. Why does this lingering ire consume you, turning a shared meal into a battlefield? Anger's grip stealing the evening's potential warmth when understanding could bridge the gap. Marcus Aurelius, who tempered fury toward foes and kin alike, viewed anger through empathy's lens in his Meditations. It blinds us to shared human frailty. Release it by seeking the offender's perspective, recognizing flaws as universal. For true freedom comes in choosing compassion over condemnation, restoring inner harmony. You pause amid the chatter, the flare subsiding. Why fuel the fire with judgment, resisting the shift to empathetic sight that humanizes the slight? The raw sting of offense resists, a defensive blaze against perceived attack, but curiosity tempers it. You discover the release. Envision their burdens, their words as echoes of struggle, then respond with measured grace, practicing this lens to dissolve anger's knots, where fury yields to connective clarity, peace reclaiming its throne. You steer the conversation later toward their recent challenges, offering a listening ear. Their defensive posture eases into vulnerable openness, the earlier edge of conflict softening into reciprocal understanding, a breakthrough that mends the familial rift as guarded expressions turn to appreciative nods, long-standing resentments fading into supportive alliance. No suppressing rage, just the empathetic gaze that frees. This release through understanding, it embodies wisdom's compassion, fortifying resilience in empathetic bonds. What one spark of anger will you reframe today with another's view, choosing peace over persistence? You lace up your running shoes for the third consecutive morning, vowing this time to stick with the routine that promises better health and focus. But as the alarm blares, the bed's warmth pulls stronger than resolve. Old patterns of snoozing and scrolling reclaiming the dawn, leaving you slumped over coffee with a familiar pang of self-reproach. Frustration simmers through breakfast. Why do good intentions crumble so easily against entrenched habits, this modern inertia turning aspirations into echoes, your will thwarted by the grooves carved deep by years of ease? Marcus Aurelius, who wrestled daily with his own frailties amid ruling demands, confronted this pull in his Meditations. Habits are the soul's steering oars. Intentions alone falter without vigilant practice. Forge new paths through relentless, small repetitions, for character blooms not in grand vows, but in consistent acts that rewire the unyielding familiar. You trace it now over the steaming mug. The defeats taste bitter. Why surrender to the rut's comfort, resisting the disciplined repetition that reshapes the self? The allure of old grooves resists, a cozy illusion of effortlessness against change's grind. But curiosity forges ahead. You discover the leverage, identify one trigger, replace it with a micro-action, rise and step out immediately, practicing this persistence to erode the old, where failure's sting yields to building momentum, habits bending to your renewed command. You confide the slip to a workout buddy at the park that afternoon, recommitting with a single lap together. Their encouraging pace steadies your stride, the usual solo discouragement evolving into shared accountability, a breakthrough that sustains the rhythm as their mirroring commitment dissolves isolation, relational hesitations fading into mutual drive. No instant overhaul, just the steady chisel that carves. This pull of old patterns, it bows to wisdom's repetitive grace, nurturing resilience in habitual renewal. What one entrenched lapse will you interrupt today? Stepping into intentional change. You watch the steam curl from your tea at the kitchen window. The vow to respond with patience in the day's rush fraying already. A curt reply to your partner's innocent question slipping out. The familiar cycle of regret tightening its hold. Frustration etches your morning. Why do fleeting lapses undermine the virtue you seek? Good intentions crumbling in the heat of the moment, as if building inner strength demands more than sporadic tries. Marcus Aurelius, tempering his royal impulses through nightly reckoning, saw virtue as a daily forge in his Meditations. Character isn't sporadic sparks but hammered steel, cultivated through consistent, deliberate acts. Each choice a strike that tempers the soul, for excellence emerges from repetition's quiet discipline, not occasional heroics. You sip slowly, the tension coiling. Why balk at the grind of persistence, resisting the forge's fire when it alone shapes enduring resilience? The ease of autopilot resists, a sly drift from effort's edge, but curiosity heats the metal. You discover the craft, select one virtue daily, patience today, then enact it in micro-moments, reflect at dusk on alignments and drifts, practicing this ritual to build habitual nobility, where slips become steps in the unyielding craft. You navigate rush hour with deliberate breaths later, yielding to a merging driver without honk. Their surprised wave returns, the road's usual antagonism easing into fluid traffic. A breakthrough that steadies your commute, as tailgaters mirror less aggressively, the collective fray of impatience yielding to smoother flow, your poised example rippling unseen. No perfection, just the daily hammer that strengthens. This daily forge, it yields wisdom's tempered virtue, anchoring resilience in deliberate repetition. What one virtue will you practice consistently today? Forging strength from the routine. You stare at the unfinished painting on your easel, brushstrokes wavering where precision eludes, the canvas a mirror to your faltering hand. Hours poured in, yet flaws glaring under the studio light. Self-criticism mounting like a relentless tide. Frustration grips you as the clock ticks. Why chase this elusive ideal of perfection, modern pressures demanding flawless output while your human limits mock the pursuit, turning creation into torment rather than joy? Marcus Aurelius, who confessed his own stumbles amid philosophical heights, embraced imperfection in his Meditations. The ideal is a guiding star, not a cage. Strive without illusion, accepting flaws as nature's stamp on mortal striving. For growth flourishes in facing imperfections with rational compassion, not self-lacerating pursuit. You set the brush down now, the inner critic howling. Why torment the soul for unattainable polish, resisting the grace of progress over purity? The drive for seamless resists, a fierce illusion of control against vulnerability's truth, but curiosity softens the edge. You discover the balance. Acknowledge the mark's imperfection without despair. Refine one stroke at a time. Practice self-forgiveness to honor effort's arc, where striving meets serenity, imperfections becoming the raw beauty of becoming. You show the piece to your mentor the next session, owning its rough edges openly. Their appraising gaze lingers, initial silence breaking into thoughtful suggestions, the expected judgment morphing into collaborative tweaks, a breakthrough that elevates the work, as their reserved critique warms to encouraging partnership, the dynamic of perfectionist isolation yielding to shared evolution. No erasing faults, just the wise embrace that advances. This elusive ideal, it humbles to wisdom's progress, nurturing resilience in imperfection's honest forge. What one flaw will you accept today, turning striving into steady growth? You trace the faint lines on your journal page. Entries from months of stoic reflections now smudged with doubt. A recent lapse in patience during a heated discussion underscoring how far the path to wisdom still stretches. Serenity feeling more like a distant horizon than a claimed shore. Frustration wells in the quiet study. Why grasp for an endpoint in this ongoing pursuit? Modern haste craving quick mastery while life's complexities demand eternal vigilance, turning growth into a weary chase. Marcus Aurelius, whose meditations spanned years of unrelenting self-examination, celebrated this embrace in his writings. Wisdom and inner serenity are not destinations but a lifelong path. Walk it with steady acceptance, each step refining the soul through persistent inquiry, for the journey itself forges unshakable peace amid inevitable stumbles. You linger over the words, the weariness tugging. Why resist the endless arc, clinging to illusions of arrival when embracing the process unlocks profound freedom? The impatience for perfection resists, a restless push against surrender's calm, but curiosity illuminates. You discover the art, recommence daily without self-rebuke. Observe choices with gentle curiosity. Practice incremental alignment to virtue, transforming the path's twists into sources of deepening tranquility, where frustration yields to enduring poise. You share a walk with a close friend that weekend, recounting your journal's honest turns. Their attentive stride mirrors your unhurried pace, the usual rush of advice-giving softening into mutual contemplation, a breakthrough that enriches the bond, as their guarded optimism opens to shared vulnerability, long-standing distances bridged by the path's communal stride. No final summit, just the faithful march onward. This ongoing pursuit, it blooms in wisdom's patient embrace, sustaining resilience through life's winding way. What one step will you take today on the path, finding serenity in the journey's grace?